So just if I talk very quickly about the project that we've got. So it's myself in geography and Claire Houlihan in Tyndall, who has a training in human geography as well. And we've got a sort of legacy of work on everyday practices, trying to understand social practices of water use at a household level. And so in the last 10 years, we've really been trying to work with many intermediaries across the water sector, government departments, businesses, charities, NGOs, water consultancies, to try and bring sort of deeper understandings of everyday practices into the way that current and future water demand is sort of imagined within that sector, and how that demand is kind of changing in relation to climate change, but also changing social norms and meanings, cultural expectations about what water provides as a service, and technological and infrastructural change. So the kind of history of academic work that we've got has really shown there's a lot of potential to use kind of concepts and methodologies from social sciences, but more specifically, what we use is sort of social practice theories to kind of shift from the behavioural economics, sort of nudgy kind of approaches to behaviour change that are sort of embedded, particularly within the UK government, more towards a sort of systems perspective, but embedded in kind of everyday life. And so we've really been working strongly with these intermediaries in bringing that research, to use intermediaries, to bring our research into the eyes of particularly policymakers and other stakeholders. And one of those intermediary companies was Artesia Consulting, who we now have this KTP with. And so there's been kind of various sort of examples of impact related to our work within government, etc. But what we realised was that there was still a lot of work to do to really shift the methodologies that are embedded in the water sector that kind of predict and forecast water demand, and also then thinking about what that means in terms of water interventions, whether they be behavioural or kind of technological. So one of the things that we really became aware of across this sector of work is the significance of social science methodologies in challenging, as we know, challenging those sorts of dominant framings. And that actually we were thinking if we could kind of embed social science methods into the water consultancy businesses who do work for water companies and DEFRA and Office for Water, that perhaps then we'd have a chance of kind of creating change. So it was through conversations with Artesia that we started to develop the idea of this KTP that's focused on kind of current and future water demand. And what we're really trying to do is to bring those conceptual and methodological insights into their team. So essentially, we're kind of trying to create within their business a sort of social science group, if you like. Joe's the kind of Joe Carhill, who talked in a moment, is the first example of that, and to really embed that into their team. The benefit for us is there's lots of interesting questions about how you actually create change from these sort of conceptual perspectives, and then thinking kind of the role of intermediaries. So we've had some really fantastic and early kind of examples of papers that we're being submitted. So there's a lot of academic benefit is what I'm trying to say, as well, and impact benefit, as well as, and obviously the benefit to the company, who will also be growing kind of a social science team and enhancing their kind of competitiveness and productivity in that space, which is the bit that hits the Innovate UK remit. So that's me and our project in a nutshell.